Boca lose in penalties. About the most bizarre statement one can make. And of course, one starts from the back to the front. Of course, from the end of the story to the beginning, because once you say, what? Boca lost in penalties? How can that happen? Well, it's not that Boca lost in penalties. It's that Boca's penalty taking ends up being the capitulation that occurred during the match. Now, yes, did they survive and didn't lose in the 90 minutes? Yes. But there was a big chance for them to, I guess, consolidate themselves. But give a lot of credit to Estudiantes. It's not just Boca losing. It's Estudiantes changing certain and tweaking certain things in the second half that made such a huge difference in the overall outcome. Edwin Cetre comes in and he changes a lot of things because then Luis Advíncula is not able to. Even I was mentioning it during the broadcast that if Advíncula has to deal with Cetre, no longer can he go forward. Of course, Boca loses completely the right side of their attack. There's nothing really, and there's no projection, there's no width, there's nothing that Boca are able to do as soon as the substitutions are made. Mesa comes in, he offers a bit more projection. That, of course, forces Lautaro Blanco to have to drop back even more and defend. So you see a well-defined back line of four until Lema comes in and ends up being, like I said during, like I'll say this a lot, like I said during the broadcast, Lema's kick is only legal in MMA. There's no defending that. In just minutes, because Boca dominated. Boca were the better team up to the moment where Lema commits the foul, commits a penalty, gets sent off. There's no two ways about it. There were so many things that went wrong with Boca on this evening, and went wrong quickly. And Cavani probably had one of his worst matches as a Boca player. He had one of the worst performances that one could have had, that one's seen him have. And it ended up just, he was more worried about the fouls that weren't called. He was more worried about getting calls his way. He was more worried about things that were going on around. And he got taken aside, taken aback with what was going on, and got distracted on what his objective was. Of course, Boca from the third minute on, Boca ended up being the better team. Of course, early on, it was Guido Carrillo with a great header. It goes right to Romero. Could have been 1-0. It should have been 1-0. And with every passing minute, Boca settled down. They started playing very well. They were moving the ball around. I mean, it's a different Boca side that, as time progresses, maybe you start to see a different team that evolves and has a better way of finishing off matches. Because with River, we saw that. With River, we saw that they controlled the matches 3-1. They drop back. All of a sudden, River start pushing and pouring it on. They survive and win through. I don't know if survive because there was enough of a cushion. River score in the final seconds of the match to make it 3-2, which makes it look closer than it actually was. But here, Boca had to find scratch and claw their way to survive. And Estudiantes didn't do that much after they equalized. They had a couple of opportunities, they had a couple of shots, but outside of that, really not much else. Yes, they control proceedings. Boca just trying to boot the ball deep, send it away, try and make, not necessarily make time, but just steering balls wide, whatever they could do to just fend off. And they were successful at that. But when it came to penalties, Cavani puts a penalty. I mean, it telegraphed that it was just absolutely atrocious how Cavani takes it. Merentiel, I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, I know what he was thinking. He just got under it a little bit too much, ends up hitting the crossbar. When you miss 3 out of 4, as Matt Lawrence said during the broadcast, what can you do? You're bound to lose. And Estudiantes just needed 2, and they got it. Chiquito Romero, he stopped the penalty. He did his part in that penalty shootout. He did his part. He at least got 1. Now, the problem is, when he has to get 2, 3, maybe even 4, that puts you in, as a goalkeeper, in almost an impossible situation. So what do? That's all you can really ask for. I mean, it's an impossible situation for Chiquito Romero. And at times I questioned him during the match too, because there's a lot of balls that he's punching away. He comes out. I mean, there's something going on with Chiquito Romero at a certain point when he has to get a ball. But Boca, after they equalized, it just seemed like they lost the plot. Zenon was just dropping back. There was really nothing Cavani was doing. Merentiel got lost in the game. Medina disappeared. Advíncula, like I said, he had to defend Cetre, so he had to drop back. So what happens? Then you lose your biggest source of creation, which is your fullbacks, both the left and the right. So that's where we end up having all sorts of issues and trouble with Boca. What happens when you bring in wide players that can cause damage, that can cause problems? You have no other choice. And then it also shows how a team that at the 70th minute of play it was evident that many players were running out of gas. Boca make 2 substitutions. Now, is it keeping in mind that penalties are on the way and who you bring in as far as fresh legs are concerned? It also exposed something, and it's not something that was seen just today. You have to go back to the match against Fortaleza, where Boca really were exposed as a team that is not very deep. It's a very short squad. And they had all these types of issues. They had all those types of problems in that encounter. And again, it showed today. Because you make 2 substitutions, and there's certain positions that needed some type of changeover and didn't get it. That's where the problem ends up being with Boca. Now, Estudiantes, what they did. They defended. They defended ferociously. They were intense on what they had to do. Yeah, Boca handled them. But Estudiantes were able to hold their own. They were able to bend. They were able to hold off. They were able to fend off. But then when the adjustments came with Eduardo Dominguez, very astute coach, a very intelligent coach that is able to read, and he read the match very well, because the substitutions came and you saw the changes begin to emerge. You saw Estudiantes winning the 50-50 balls more often than not. You saw the wide play becoming more influential. You saw a lot of the wide play with Mesa on one end and Cetre on the other becoming just so dangerous, or more dangerous than they were before. So there were a lot of factors in all of this that end up really causing problems for Boca, and they paid for a dealie on this evening. They have to close out matches. They have to find a way to get that second goal, that third goal, and finish things off. Tonight they didn't do it. Against River they did. But that's how football plays. That's how football works out. And of course, with penalties, if you're not cold calculated and with a straight head, well, things can happen. You can't depend on Chiquito Romero. You can depend on Chiquito Romero until you can't depend on him anymore. At a certain point, you have to look at the penalty kick takers. And as soon as Cavani ends up missing, heads go down. And when Chiquito Romero then makes a penalty kick save, then things did turn around until Menentiel misses again. And basically, you saw that the fate was sealed. For Estudiantes, a great run so far. They won Copa Argentina. They lost the Super Cup, but it's a team that has kind of repositioned themselves. Give a lot of credit to Eduardo Dominguez, though, and his squad that were able to fight through all this, overcome a lot of adversity, and of course, everything that happened with Javier Altamirano, everything that has gone on with them this season. They're a solid team that was a contender to win this league, and they're at the doorstep of doing so. So it'll be interesting to see them against Vélez on Sunday, because if there are 2 teams that deserve this final, one of them is Estudiantes, the other one is Vélez, and as I mentioned in the other video a little while ago, Vélez and their turnaround ends up being one of the great stories of the Argentine League so far. So guys, make sure you're following, you're subscribing, you're doing everything, because I got lots more. And maybe I'll start looking into other projects within this channel to start kind of making things take off a little bit more. Talk to you soon. Ciao.